can often lead to difficult challenges with the relationships externally, and what that kind of looks like.
Mm. Yeah, I wasn't listening at all there. Hello, welcome to the Yin Yang podcast. I'm David,
And I'm Candace.
and this is
Hello.
Fluffy, with a fat belly.
Welcome to the Yin to Yang podcast. Join us for candid conversations speaking about all things spirituality, consciousness, and ascension. Whether you are newly awakened or a seasoned journeyer, we trust that these conversations land in your heart and guide you deeper into the truth of who you are. So get comfortable and enjoy.
So it's always nice to start with a bit of centering and grounding. Even in my coaching sessions before we begin, it's always nice to just come back to the present moment. So I'd invite everyone just to close their eyes and just imagine a little piece of string is pulling you from the top of your crown, just lengthening your spine. And then if you gently tuck your chin towards your chest, you'll feel the back of your neck elongate. And then just feel that sense of sinking down the head, over the shoulders, over the rib cage, over the hips. And bring your attention to your breathing. And just take a full breath in through the nose. Really fill the body up with air as much as you can. And we're going to hold that breath for 6 seconds. So breathing in. And holding for 6. And releasing out the mouth. Just notice how that one breath already just brings you more into a grounded state, more in tune with the present moment. And just gently notice your breathing now. Notice the inflow of your nostrils and the outflow. And if you bring your awareness to the sounds in your environment, just simply noticing any sounds you may hear. You're not trying to identify the sounds, just noticing the auditory sensation of hearing. You may hear some birds, or the hum of electronics, or people, or traffic. Just allowing all the sounds to sit in your environment. And just bring your focus back to the breath. I want you to just follow this next breath if you can, from the beginning to the top, and then all the way to the end. The more you can focus on your breathing, the more your mind will settle, because the breath mirrors the mind. So if your breathing is chaotic, your mind is chaotic. If your mind is chaotic, your breath will reflect that as well. In this moment, just give your mind full permission to think whatever it wants, to go wherever it wants to go. Just let it loose. And you'll notice that when you let your mind think what it wants, there's a space and an emptiness that reveals itself to you, a quietness. And in your mind, I want you to say to your heart, thank you. I love you. And you can gently open your eyes. How are you feeling there?
Yeah, super grounded.
It's very relaxing. I find that meditating with another, it creates a whole new dynamic.
Yeah, it
And
does.
I'm not religious in any way, but I have read a lot of religion, and there's a part in the Bible that says, when two or more are gathered in my name, I am there.
Yeah.
And I always think of that. There is this third presence that makes itself known and allows you to really sink into it. And that's why, this human journey is about each other. For me, it's about each other, because you could have the best life, but you're totally alone, you'd have nothing. Often when you get something, the first thing you want to do is like, look what I got, let me show you. You want to share that with others. So, you know,
I think it comes back to a conversation that we had not too long ago about how if intrinsically every single one of us as an individualized fractal of source was all the same, if every single one of us was the same, then there would be no need for community or companionship or relationship, because intrinsically we would all just be on this journey of individuality. And that is not the case. We've come here holding different aspects of self in our source self to share with each other, that we may remember and reflect remembrance to each other. So the very essence of our incarnation at this time is community and relationship.
I love this.
You would never, often people will say, oh, I want to run away from my experience. I want to go and be in the middle of the Himalayan mountains and just have all this time to, meditate and be with myself and be alone and not have the travesties of life. That person would not grow. That
Yeah.
person would not even come to a space of real enlightenment, because a lot of what I believe enlightenment to be is the interaction with others.
Mm,
You're never going to be shown nearly as much as what you think you'll be shown on your own as you do when you're in relationship and connection with community.
I agree, but I also understand that each person's path to enlightenment is unique. And so there could be someone in the mountains right now sweeping the floor, and just that act of sweeping the floor brings them to enlightenment.
But that again comes back to the fact that every single one of us is such an individualized fractal
Yeah.
of source.
So anyone listening to this is definitely not in the Himalayan mountains, and you better deal with the people in your life.
100%. And if you're in the Himalayan mountains, I wonder how you got Wi-Fi.
Don't forget to like the
Ah,
video.
Don't forget to like the video whilst you've got the internet. Oh my
So, what is spirituality to you? It's quite nice to define terms, I feel, and everyone might have a slightly different definition, but when you're speaking about spirituality, it's nice to know what your definition is. So, how do you define spirituality?
So I define spirituality as the process of unbecoming everything that you have become, to remember the truth of your organic nature.
I like that.
Yeah, it's the unbecoming.
Mm, I
And
really
for
like
you?
that. For me, it's a progressive realization towards a greater whole. And so, when you're too trapped in yourself, you just see your problems, this thing, whatever, what you're lacking. But as you connect to more and more nature, animals, the universe, God, source, then that's the whole. There's a greater whole, and you're a part of it. You're not a part, separate. You're a part. You're connected to it. So it's that progressive connecting to that. The other definition I look at is the breath.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so inspiration is
Mhm.
actually inhalation. In spirit, you're breathing the spirit of life, the prana, the life force. That's why when you die, your soul, your spirit leaves your body, because the breath anchors your spirit to the body. So those are the two I like to work with.
I mean, I find it crazy that people forget that, the act of breathing in itself is a miraculous process, because without breath, we would be dead.
Yeah.
So actually, the fact that we're being sustained by, this process of oxygenation is consciousness. It's what gives us life. It's what keeps us alive. It's what sustains our life. Yet people forget the very process of just breathing, because it's become so automated and something that we don't think of unless you do, which obviously we do, but a lot of people don't. They forget that actually, what am I breathing? I'm breathing in oxygen, yes, but I'm breathing in consciousness. I'm breathing in miracles. I'm breathing in potential, because consciousness is just that. It's just the pure potential of what am I breathing in today? What am I calling in today? And also, what am I letting go of?
Yeah, exactly that. Oh man, when it comes to people and breathing, it's gonna be my life story.
Another episode for another day.
Yeah, no, because when I first learned how to breathe correctly, I think I was about 21 and I started doing yoga and I was watching a lot of Paul Chek videos online. And I was so amazed. Like, I didn't know how to breathe ever. And I was actually upset with my parents. Like, why don't you guys teach me how to breathe? And then I realized nobody knows.
But
I can usually count on one hand how many people I've met that actually breathe correctly. And I said, everyone take a breath. Like, I was like, okay, we got work to do. So yeah, it's such a low barrier to entry way to fix your health, connect to your body, you calm your mind. Like every facet of health and life and spirituality can start at the breath.
Absolutely.
And it's like you said, because it's so automated, people forget about it. And that's what I always hear. Like, why do I need to breathe? I breathe all the time. Like, yeah, but you're breathing wrong. So it's a beautiful place to start. That's why in the beginning I just said if you can follow that one breath, and it instantly brings you back to that space of being grounded, that state of being whole. And yeah, I like what you said about not only what am I breathing in, what am I creating for this day, but what am I letting go of? What am I breathing out? Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes we forget very much that when we're breathing, we are filling ourselves up. And when we're exhaling, we are emptying ourselves out. So, with that, with the conscious intention of what am I breathing in? What am I letting go? It creates what am I filling myself up with? And it's dual purpose. But I think at this point, it's people just need to become aware of their breath because we're so conditioned to just acknowledge that it happens on its own that we don't connect with it. So whilst it's really beautiful to go, we don't want anyone identifying here going, oh, I don't breathe properly. Am I going to die? Or whatever the case may be. Or maybe my spiritual journey is not going to work because of that. It's not that. It's simply about being aware that what you're doing
And
every
if
day
you
is
do feel
breathing.
that way, there are videos online to help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a journey, it's a progress, but I think the number one would be, if we had to put it in order for those, I mean, these videos are really for people that are in their awakening journey. Some of you will already have been in the awakening journey for a long time, but some of you are only just waking up now. So to tell you that you're breathing wrong, it's probably, you are, but it's probably not a good place to start. But just my number one thing would be to become aware of your breath, just even the in and
just become curious.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the time when I work with people, they have exactly that. It's like, oh, I'm not breathing wrong, or especially when I'm training someone in the gym, because they really quickly realize, like, I don't know my left from my right. I have no coordination, stability, and there's this sense of like a letdown when it's just a point of the word you always use, a point of mastery. It's like become curious about your body. It's like, oh, my toes don't work so well. Well, let's get curious about the toes. How do they work? How can I stretch them out?
like this is a personal.
Look, everyone's toes don't work. Okay? No, I'm kidding. But for real, it's every person I work with is like, oh, we got to fix your toes. So, because also start from the ground up, start from the basics. Same with the breath, So
Absolutely.
that's why I've made so many breathing videos, and it's one of the first things I work with someone. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm terrible. It's like, okay, well, this is something I'm not maybe great at, but it's something I can improve on.
Willingness. I think that's
And
everything.
that's the curiosity.
Number one in your awakening journey, because if you do not have willingness in your journey from the get-go, then you're going to find this journey to be so hard because you're going to have to pick up the pieces every single day. At some point in your journey, it's going to be really challenging. It's going to be really difficult. But if you have the willingness to show up anyway, then you're in good stead for knowing that you can get through it. So with the breath, it's the same. With everything, with all of it, with whole life experience, have a willingness to be curious, have a willingness to explore, have a willingness to step into those uncomfortable places, and also let go of what you thought was true. And I think a lot of the spiritual journey, at least for me, was really coming to this place of, oh my gosh, everything that I've ever been told, taught, programmed to believe, heard about, read in a book, watched in a movie, there's a really good chance that that was all a load of rubbish and it was a lie. And to come into that space of going, okay, so if I believe that everything I've been taught is a lie, in my spiritual awakening journey, I'm now questioning everything because that's what you're going to do. What is truth? What do I actually identify with? And that might be really easy in the beginning. You might go, okay, well, I've been told that I'm a girl. Well, I am a girl. Well, that's great. Okay, cool. That's true. What does that truth feel like in my body? Well, it's undeniable. Okay, well, then what about when we start asking the questions about, does God exist? Or do you have both masculine and feminine essence within you that dwell within you? Does your inner reality create your external reality? Like, where do you sit on the fence with those things? And the willingness is what is going to drive you through that space of going, oh my gosh, I've been lied to my whole life, to a space of acceptance to go, okay, let me willingly go and explore. Maybe there's something else out there.
Yeah, I like that. And I always check with people before I work with them, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you? And unless they're a 7, I'm like, it's not going to work. But I really like the curiosity. Maybe it's just the way that I am, but it's like, aren't you curious about what's out there? Aren't you curious about what the truth is? When I was young, all I wanted was obsessed with the truth. Like every time I saw someone who looked like they had it figured out, and like I would study them and ask them so many questions. I wanted to know because I really thought there was a truth.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there is, but I still haven't got to that point yet.
I don't think any of us have.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because, you know, I think that's what really serves you in your spiritual journey is curiosity, because the moment that you have any fixed line thinking that boxes you into a thought system or program, you block yourself from seeing any expansion beyond that. And I mean, we've had conversations with this around things like entities and people's belief systems, and they become very, very stuck in their rigid thinking. And it's not that it's wrong, because that's been their resonance, that's been their truth, that's been their foundational, you know, belief system. But I think we always say that it's really about remaining teachable. It's understanding that throughout this life, we are always going to be learning as students in this life. And the curiosity helps us to go, okay, well, if this is it, and this is where, you know, embodiment practices and spirituality in terms of meditation, people hit a wall and they're like, okay, I've gone as far as I can possibly go, and I don't know how to go beyond that. And for me, I always say to my clients, like, we're looking to go beyond the beyond. Like, what is beyond the beyond once we get to that wall? Because it never ends. We think it ends. We think we had, oh my gosh, I had the most amazing experience with Archangel Michael or the Buddha or whatever it is, or myself. I had the most amazing experience with myself. But it's about understanding that with curiosity and willingness, you can get to a point of going, there's more. There's actually more to what I just experienced.
Endless.
Endless.
Yeah. No, I like what you said, because it's true. I've often run into people who've got into that place, and I think I've been there too. Like you do so much, you're like, well, I know this stuff now. But like I always try to remind myself and everybody, is the beautiful thing about meditation is it's always about starting again.
Yeah.
It's always about, okay, now. And it doesn't matter how many you've done or what level you're at, it's just starting over. Get lost in thought, just start over. Yeah.
Really cultivating that presence in the now known moment, because, you know, if we could all really wake up every single day and live today as if it was a brand new day, as if we didn't know what had happened yesterday and we don't know what was going to happen tomorrow, then we would have, and we knew that we only had these 24 hours, you know, like the awe and the wonder, the curiosity, the engagement, the community, the relationship, the depth of everything. You would not walk past a singing bird and not engage with it. You wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't have a half-hearted hug. You wouldn't do a half-hearted handshake. Like, it would be something that was so encapsulating, because you knew that you only had this now moment to experience it. And I think that's where you want to be with meditation. That's where you want to be with your spiritual practice, is going, okay, yes, I've had many of these experiences, but actually in this now no moment, I'm choosing for it to be like something I've never experienced before.
That's beautiful.
It's brand new.
I really like that a lot. Yeah, because you forget, everything becomes automated, and you forget just how, like, what is going on, you know, like weird and wonderful the world is. Like, look at your hands. What? Like, you know, so I remember I was doing a podcast with a friend the other day, and like his fiance was taking their dogs to the beach, and the two dogs were sitting like in the front chair in the back. So from my angle, it just looked like a dog in the car, looked like it was driving, kind of, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is so odd. We've captured these wolves, and now we've created this vehicle thing, and you know, we drive, like, it's such an odd thing when you just step back and really look at what's going on in life, you know. And with technology, you can do that all the time because it's just absolutely incredible. The fact that we can even have these kinds of experiences, two different people or people on different sides of the planet communicating, not in real time, through hyperspace and hyperspeed, and like it's amazing. And so much of what I've learned has been through the internet. And so that connectivity, that we're here to understand, that community, that sense of connection, that create a whole, the internet in a sense is like an extension of that. Human technology is always an extension of our ability. So it's an extension of that. So the internet has become like its own living consciousness. And that's why now in human history is so different ever before. Like every generation has said it's different, but now we can communicate in real time to anyone on the planet, and that's changed everything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think also on that note, it's, with everything, there's a pro and a con. And I think one of the biggest struggles that a lot of people find when they come into their awakening journey and they have their spiritual awakening is Google is endless. It's like, where do I even begin? Because you go, I've just had my spiritual awakening. What does it mean to be spiritual? And you've got 9 million videos at your fingertips. And you're like, well, which one do I choose? So whilst the internet can be super helpful for so much and that interconnection, I think it's also it's weird because it's limiting in its overexpansiveness, because a lot of human beings are still in the stage of their evolution where they actually just need someone to hold their hand and say, let me help you.
So how would you suggest someone have, I have my own answer for this, but how would you suggest someone has better discernment when, so like in that point, okay, I'm waking up, you're searching online, there's so much information, and it can even just be even health and nutrition and things. So what would you say is a way for someone to discern?
So for me, discernment always is about coming into the body. I feel, and I know this to be true for me, that when my intuition is active and my discernment is switched on, you will always get a very good feeling or not a good feeling in the body. You will get a feeling of resonance in the body. So that might be I'm reading something online and it tells me that I should do whatever every single day. And I'm feeling like I don't really resonate with it. I don't really think that that's for me. It doesn't actually feel good in my body. I can't even imagine doing that. So I feel like discernment is really that true north navigation in your intuition. So whether that's your gut instinct or whatever people want to call it, but I always find that it's that. But we also have to understand that dysregulation is going to lead you down a rabbit hole of information where you will not be able to use your discernment. So doing anything from a dysregulated space is not going to serve your highest good, because you're not even going to consume and integrate that information. You're just going to get yourself super overwhelmed. So dysregulation is, don't do those kinds of things from a space of dysregulation. But I also feel like, we have to come into really connecting with ourselves. What do I, as an individual being, actually feel like I need? If I'm struggling with my health, then I know, okay, I need to support my physical body. If I'm new to my spiritual journey and my physical health is great, but I want to really connect with source, well, then your spiritual journey needs support. Okay, my spiritual journey is good, but I'm having bouts of anxiety and depression. Okay, well, let's look at your emotional health. What do you need in those areas? What do you need in those areas of vitality? And then go, okay, I know that I'm actually going to look up about spiritual support, not just awakening support in general. But my fundamental thing would always be to go to people. I'm not a big internet person.
Yeah, I know, pretty bad.
I like
I'm
the organic nature
No,
of
I like
things.
people too, but I'm an internet person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So,
And where has it hindered you or not hindered you?
oh my goodness, there's so many ways to answer that question.
So what would your answer be to someone coming into their spiritual awakening journey and, really needing to navigate with discernment the realms of the internet?
Hmm. I would say like be a lot more skeptical, firstly, and also recognize that anyone who's talking, they're sharing their experience.
Yeah.
Because what everyone tends to do is like, oh, this person's eating like this and they got this results. Well, that's the only way to eat. Or this person reached some level of self-love or enlightenment, so they must have all the answers. And you're always just seeing somebody else's viewpoint, somebody else's perspective. And so you could eat the way they eat and not look like them. You could do the things they do and not get to the same place. So just keep an openness to everything. Don't be overly identified or married to any single idea or modality or whatever, because it will change. And the biggest problem I've seen in especially my male clients is exactly that, married to a certain, well, this is how I used to train and I looked really fit and I'm going to keep doing that. I'm like, yeah, but you're 40 years old now.
Yeah.
You know, like this is how I used to eat. It's like, yeah, but now you're not in winter. You're in, so it's the same with everything. Just keep an openness. One friend used to say to me, we have a tendency to always believe the last best argument. And it's that kind of thing of like whoever won or had the best thing to say is like, okay, well, they know the truth. And now on the internet, because there's so much information and you're always just getting little snippets, you're building a story. You don't even realize it, but you're building a story of this person or this thing or this political event or spirituality or God, and it's not complete. And it might never be complete. So just remaining open to it, because everyone will choose sides. So that whole duality thing, that's the separation is the evil in the world. So what can bring us together is recognizing like we could have different viewpoints and coexist. It's allowed, So what you said is also what I like to teach people is like the body, feel in the body. But most people
They don't even
really,
know how to do that.
yeah, it's a struggle a lot. So even what you're saying about the nervous system, like don't consume information from a dysregulated state. If someone has been dysregulated their whole life, that's the norm. They don't really know. You don't have to feel tired and stressed and anxious.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really difficult because a lot of the time, having been in the camp of being both hyper spiritual and hyper physical, and I mean, you've also experienced, like, this is why this conversation is so beautiful, is like being hyper physical and hyper spiritual, like we've both been in both spaces. I think it's about really understanding, and this is a conversation that we will definitely have at some point, is understanding that a spiritual journey is not singular on its own. It is an embodiment practice within the spiritual journey and the evolution that we're in right now. It happens in the physical body. The changes, the upgrades, the integration, your connection to source, your ability to connect to source as a channel, as a receiver, as that energy conduit happens in the body. So we find a lot of people, and I've been there, I've been very guilty of this, being hyper spiritual, where they only pragmatically focus on their spiritual journey and their spiritual developments. And from my own experience, that ended up in psychosis. So, there's got to be a balance of where we're fixating and overextending into both the physical and the spiritual. Again, people can go, okay, well, in order for me to be spiritual, I need to eat well, I need to have a really good, strong body, and they go too much into the physical without the spiritual practice. And then all you have is a really good looking body and a really strong body, but you've got no connection to source, but that's not where you're at. So but I'm just saying, like, there's two very extremes, and also very much linked to the physical, which I've seen in my own practice, is mental health. People come into the physical, they can have these most incredible, strong, fit, healthy bodies. They can be the epitome of health, but they're miserable. They are absolutely, absolutely miserable in their mental health. So it's really
cough, cough.
It's marrying the two together.
Yeah, well, that's what holistic health is. It's all aspects of health. And so you can't talk about the body if you're not going to talk about the emotions or your nutrition or your sleep and, and how much coffee you're drinking. And like, are you have time for gratitude? Like so many, we all hear these things like, oh, gratitude, gratitude, but like, it's such a superpower. Just stop and like really start saying thank you. Even if you don't mean it in the beginning, like you'll keep saying it, then all of a sudden you'll start to feel it. And so, yeah, to me, it's always been about the body because this is how you experience life. And yes, there are lots of stories and people who can reach certain levels by transcending the body, for the majority of us.
Yeah.
Who are you thinking of?
Lots of people.
Okay.
I don't know if I can be in that camp.
Well, I don't know. You did what did you do? A 12-day fast?
Yeah, but that doesn't seem nearly as bad as like 40 days.
I mean, it's a start. To get to 40, you got to get through 12.
Yeah, it's true.
So you're on your way.
Quarter way there.
Yeah, and like those are all cool, and if someone's really called to do that, this is where I see a lot of people kind of fall off, and maybe I'm still got a lot to learn, but I mean, I do, but to me, when I see people who overly obsess over those things, I was like, already I can feel in the energy when they're talking like something's off, because they're like, I have to fast, they're pushing themselves, and or they have to be a vegan, or and their body's falling apart. And I've just seen this so many times with people. It's like, your fixation on this thing is the very thing that you're here to learn. You think that as soon as I get there, then I'm there. It's like, that thought is what's taking you off the
I
track.
think it's also coming back to that whole thing of teachers, is because a lot of the time people's fixation comes from being learned from somebody who's taught it to them. So that has now become a fixation due to a lack of discernment, due to a lack of intuition, due to a lack of really connecting with the body to see, is this actually serving me? Because a lot of the time people will come into spiritual practice and the first thing that someone says to them is what they bite on. So it's like, okay, in order to be spiritual, you need to be vegan, for example, or you need to do yoga every day, or you need to not swear,
I
or
blame the media.
no, absolutely. There's a lot of sensationalization around it. But also, I think we've had this conversation about how everything is intention. Everything is intention. Every single thing that you do comes with an intention. And for example, if you are a smoker and you work in a really busy environment and you are smoking because you enjoy that 5 minute smoke break because you don't get any other time off, then you're smoking to create space for time. That is that's not intentional. That is you needing a coping mechanism to have time. It's very different to saying, you know what, I am choosing to have multiple breaks during the day, whether I go and sit in the sun, whether I go for a walk, whether I have a cigarette, whether I eat my lunch. I am choosing to make time in my day to give myself that recharge. It's very different to I need to smoke to have that break. And I think it comes down to everything. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? What is your intention behind it? And a lot of the time, our intentions behind things is a gateway into a lot of processing of trauma and programming that we need to work through. Why the things you're doing?
Because as soon as you don't have that thing, who are you?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been there a
That's a
lot.
spiritual journey. Who are we?
Yeah, take
Who
your
are
phone away for a day.
Yeah.
I used to say it to people, and just the thought of not having their phone would drive anxiety through their body. And so, yeah, a lot of us are in that camp, and that's such an issue with, technology. And so what we're just saying about like how people just grab the first thing that they're taught, it's like, look at how all the algorithms work. It's always clickbait, like this little clip from this thing. And so you're always just getting this tiny slice of nothingness almost. And so we're driving human attention to the flashy thing, to the short thing, and it's killing us actually.
I mean, I always say to my clients, and I've said this to you, and I said to myself daily, is, at the end of the day, if we really truly believe, like coming back to the question of who are we? Who are we? Who am I? Who are you? And we sit in that space of, I've come to realize that I'm, God in human incarnation. And I can say that without any resistance now, whereas in the beginning I was like, no, I'm not claiming that title. We need to understand that we can sit in our own field of wisdom and recognize that everything that we need is within us. Everything that we need to even make a decision about what we need externally to us is within us. And that comes down to our intuition, our discernment, our connection to source, our connection to our guides. Because at any given moment, we have an opportunity to say, hey, is this actually for me? Does this work for me?
Yeah, and look, it's 100% true as far as we know. It's true, right? I fully agree. But what I also found, and even in myself, is like when you're really struggling, hearing that you don't need everything's inside of you is actually not always the best thing. In fact, sometimes makes you irritated.
Yeah, 100%. But that being said,
but it's true and it's good. It needs to be stated. So, how can we figure out a way of like you're in the depths of it, you're struggling, you know that everything's inside of you, you are God's source, that you can, you got it, but you're in a place where you don't got it and you're losing your shit. So like, how do we marry that? How do we be like, yes, we know we are everything and I feel like I'm nothing and I'm dying. Like, how do we bridge that gap?
Come into the 0 point zone.
ZPZ.
So I think you literally just said it, like the center of God's source creation in the 0 point zone is really source creation energy itself. And, the moment that we say that we're everything, we're identifying to an attached like label of or identity of we are everything. We know ourselves to be everything. But also when we say, but I'm feeling actually like I'm not everything today. I feel like I'm less than I'm less and I'm disconnected from everything. Again, we're placing a label on that thing. I'm not connected to everything. So you've got this, I'm connected to everything. I'm not connected to everything. Two very polarizing labels.
But the same thing, basically.
But the same thing. But it's about recognizing that when we are able to give ourselves full permission to just be in that space, whether it is I'm everything, I'm nothing, and bring both. I've been here and I've been here. I'm going to bring both of them with me because intrinsically they've both made up who I am. And I'm going to sit with it in the 0 point zone and recognize that actually in the truth of the 0 point zone, in the truth of spirit and source, I am neither one of those things. I am not everything and I am not nothing. I just am. And that's when we start to recognize that actually we have been the ones that are fixated with putting the labels on ourselves in declaring how it is that we're feeling, declaring how we're doing, declaring the next thing that we're going to do. But actually, the truth of the matter is that we just are. We're just here to be. We're just here to be exactly as we are. We're striving constantly of, I'm not well, I want to be healthy. Intrinsically, you are. There's a version of you that exists that is. I'm poor, I want to be wealthy, but you're abundant. You're God. So if we can just come into that space of accepting in our totality, regardless of all the noise outside of us, that we just are, that we are that thing we say we are when we say we're source incarnate, we can be there and we can sit in that space and be okay with being in that space. And that's really, it feels like nothingness. It feels like loneliness. It feels like the void at times. And it really does. But that's exactly where we recognize that actually I'm getting detached from it all, because ultimately part of our spiritual evolution in this lifetime is letting go of attachments, letting go of all of those things. It's unbecoming. When you start to unbecome all the things that you've taken on, what are you left with? You're just left with you. Who is you? It's really cool. Like the other day I received a download and it was like, I am God. And it was like, am I God? When you start moving around the words like I am God, am I God, God I am. It's all the same.
Sure.
Even when you're questioning your divinity, you are it.
That's amazing. I'm just letting myself sit with that really because, yeah, like you're saying earlier, truth has a certain flavor to it. And that's beautiful. I think that's a cool place to wrap it up. Thank you, Candace, for your wisdom and your presence and your I amness.
I amness. We're all about the I amness. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending your time with us. We appreciate you. We hope that this has benefited you in some way. Interact with us, reach out to us, ask us questions, give the video a like, or the podcast a like, wherever you're listening to it, and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next video.